My name is Carlo, and I'm the Communications Coordinator of the Work Economic Summit 2018. I'm proud to be joined by Mark Purdy, who is the Chief Economist at Accenture Research and Managing Director at Accenture. Good evening, Mr. Purdy, and thank you so much for your insightful talk during the panel debate on the future of work. So, as an introductory question, I would like to ask you, do you think jobs will change or jobs will disappear with the use of artificial intelligence and robotics and automation in the workforce in the future?
Well, I think for the main part, jobs will change in the future with artificial intelligence. So there will always be jobs that are unique to humans. So jobs that require empathy, social interaction, creativity, common sense, dexterity. I mean, those jobs will always be there for humans, although they will change because we will use technology for those jobs. At the other end of the spectrum, I think there will be some jobs that will change quite a lot because of automation. I mean, thinking about sectors such as transport and data processing, there will be a significant degree of automation. But for most jobs, the kind of large swathe of jobs in between, it will be about doing the same jobs but doing them differently. Technology will free up a lot of our time to do more interesting and more value-added tasks. Whether it's the surgeon in the operating theatre or the factory technician who's using a virtual reality headset. So, there'll still be a lot of jobs and work to go around, but how we do those jobs will be different.
Yeah. During the talk, you mentioned that there will be a shift in identity in work and in how work is associated with by people. How do you think people's perception of work will change with greater automation?
Well, at the moment, work fulfills a number of functions. I mean, one is obviously the economic function. It gives us income, it gives us a livelihood. But work is also wrapped up with our identity, our sense of who we are and what our role is in society. And that may begin to change in the future as more and more tasks are done by machines, by technology. We'll have to think a little bit more about what makes us uniquely human. There will still be plenty of work to go around, but we may need to think about how we create more meaningful work for people whose jobs have changed because of technology.
Certainly, the increasing use of robotics and artificial intelligence will raise issues on what the role of the government should be in this transition in our society. What do you think the role of the government should be, and also in particular regarding regulation around robotics? Do you have any particular views in that regard?
I think the government will play a hugely important role in enabling us to move towards a world of future work where technology is being used to a much greater degree, particularly with artificial intelligence and the rise of robotics. So what government can do first and foremost is around giving people the skills to learn and making sure people have the right skills for the future. And that starts with the educational system and also continues on to further education and training. So really focusing on those skills around creativity, empathy, communication, those are going to be hugely important in the future. Government will also have a major role in helping with the transition, particularly for workers whose jobs may have been displaced by technology. For example, whether that's in transport or data processing. So making sure there's a targeted transition path for those workers so that they can move to new areas of work.
During the talk earlier, you mentioned the expression responsible artificial intelligence. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, when we talk about responsible AI, it means that companies and businesses need to understand that when they make decisions about robotics or the use of AI, it has implications not just for their own business and their performance, but also for wider society. And that may be because of some of the kind of ethical aspects of using AI systems, or it may be because of the impact of AI systems on jobs or on particular communities. So what we're saying around responsible AI is that all businesses that are using AI will really need to think about those societal consequences, work with other businesses and with governments to mitigate those as far as possible.
It's very interesting. Do you think machines will be self-conscious, self-aware? There's a lot of debate and discussion around that at the moment. What are your views?
Well, there are two types of AI that are generally discussed. One is the kind of the view of general AI, general intelligence, the kind of AI and robots that we see in science fiction movies, humanoid robots that can act like humans, appear indistinguishable from humans. Now, I think most people agree that kind of view, that kind of strong view of general AI is nowhere near to happening yet. I mean, it's way off into the future. What we're talking about much more is the narrow view of AI, which is using AI, algorithms, machine learning, robots to do very specific tasks. That may be analyzing legal documentation, it may be around analyzing insurance fraud cases, it may be operating machinery or vehicles, or it may be playing a chess game. That's where we see tremendous progress in AI, and where we think there's actually a much more pragmatic case for businesses to use AI systems.
During the talk earlier, you mentioned that virtual reality technology will play a major role in the future economy. How do you think virtual reality will shape the world of work in the future?
I think virtual reality, although it's still some way off, it's still in its infancy, could potentially dramatically reshape the world of work. So if you imagine in the future, maybe 10, 20 years' time, you may be in your living room, but you may be having a virtual meeting with your colleagues in New York or Vienna. And so if you think that we could move to that kind of virtual kind of office experience, then that really changes the nature of work, because it means that people are no longer bound to the physical office location. So you can have work potentially anywhere. So it could be very liberating, but we'll need to see how it plays out in the future.
You've emphasized the importance of retraining the workforce, and in particular young people, in order to equip them with the skills to adapt to the increasing use of AI in the future. Do you have in mind any concrete particular initiatives that can be used as a model, as an example of a successful partnership between the government and the private sector in providing the youth with these skills?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to practical experience. So I think we need to give people the freedom to be creative quite early on. So that means not having kind of rote learning, really understanding the concepts and really equipping people to learn how to learn. I mean, that is the most important skill that's going to be important in the future. So I think that's an area where businesses and governments can work together, and with universities, to really give students very kind of practical hands-on experience. So internships, periods of work experience, kind of understanding how concepts are used in the real world, but also giving people that exposure to self-learning. I think that's going to be really important. Finally,
I would like to ask you, how has your experience been at the Warwick Economics Summit?
Well, it's been tremendous. This is my first time here. There have been some incredible, inspiring presentations. I've learned a lot over the course of the day, and I felt my own panel, discussion was also very interesting. We explored so many different aspects around technology and the future of work, and it's really added to my knowledge. And I've also been hugely impressed by the organisation of the event. I'm incredibly professional. I know a lot of effort goes into organising these events, but I congratulate all of you. It's been a tremendous event.
Mr. Purdy, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.